Thank you guys for being here. It feels really special to have you guys here. And I just thought, would you mind introducing yourselves and giving us a little bit of a background on yourself, and if you're part of an organization, what that does to specifically support women in film?
Should I start?
Yeah, thank you, Terry.
I'm Terry Lawler. I'm the Executive Director of New York Women in Film and Television, and we are a professional association of women in film, television, and digital media. We have 2,000 members in the New York City area, and we are part of a network of women in film chapters around the world with about 10,000 members. We do professional development activities, workshops, seminars. We advocate for equality for women in the business. We celebrate women's work, and we also preserve the work of women filmmakers. And we are a membership organization, and we are a really good membership organization, right? And so I forgot to, I usually bring my propaganda, but I forgot it. But if anybody is interested in joining, please let me know afterwards.
So I'm Alex Cirillo. I'm one of the co-founders of Big Vision Empty Wallet, and what we do is create programs and opportunities to help creators, filmmakers, writers get their work made and seen and really further their careers. So the programs that we have going on right now, we've got a writer's lab in Costa Rica, we've got a distribution lab, and we've also just launched a diversity incentive program that specifically helps women, people of color, and the LGBT community get their work out there. So we're supporting films and TV series, digital series also, and basically providing them with all different discounts, education opportunities, and ways of getting their projects moving forward.
I'm Haeyeon Park. I'm a writer, performer, and a filmmaker. I have 2 seasons of a web series called Haeyeon, like my name, but spelling's a little different. But yeah, so I'm working on my next series and just excited to enjoy the turning tides of our storytelling and filmmaking landscape these days. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, when you cut out 50% of a demographic from an industry, I mean, that business is obviously going to suffer. And I know, Terry, you have pointed out that studios sometimes don't realize how much they're leaving on the table in terms of money-wise by not developing female stories. And there's been so much coverage in the media lately about this topic. And Carey Mulligan said about her film Suffrage that she felt the story had fallen by the wayside. A lot of production companies weren't interested because they were worried about the financial risk of putting a female story out there. And I wondered, what's happening in the industry to change assumptions that female-centered movies aren't worth pursuing as equally as male ones, and the assumption that female stories have a higher financial risk?
Well, the Producers Guild of America East, oh no, I guess it's just the Producers Guild of America, it's not just,
Yeah.
I just know the people on the East anyway, have produced a toolkit, what they're calling a toolkit called the Ms. Factor. And in it, they debunk all of the myths about how movies centered with women-centered roles don't make money, and also, more importantly to us anyway, is how movies directed by women don't make money. So if you compare the, you can't judge how much a movie makes without looking at its budget and its promotion budget. So if you put apples to apples, same budget movies, same amount of promotion, women-centered movies make more money than movies that are centered around men. We see a lot of big bucks going into these tentpole movies, these Superman movies, even Bridge of Spies, which we were just talking about. These are movies, very male-dominated movies, and the amount of television ads, newspaper ads, the amount of people working on social media to push these movies, that money is staggering. And it's rare that a movie centered on a woman character has that kind of promotional budget. But when you put apples to apples, movies about women make more money.
Yeah.
And that's why I was saying that Hollywood is leaving money on the table.
Right.
So they made more movies centered on women and then put the money behind promoting it.
Right.
They would make more money.
Thank you for coming. This is Leah from Film Fatales. We ladies just introduce themselves and give a little bit of background on an organization that they're involved in. So maybe you can just quickly fill us in.
There are like so many Fatales here. A collective introduction. Film Fatales is a community of women directors who get together monthly in each other's homes to support each other and collaborate on projects and really build a community in which to make our films. And here in New York we have 6 separate chapters who all meet every month simultaneously. One for feature film directors, one for documentary filmmakers, 2 for short filmmakers, and we've recently inspired sister groups for producers and cinematographers. So it's a real grassroots solution towards gender equality in film.
Awesome. Well, we were just talking about the assumption that there's a higher risk involved with creating a female-centric story in a movie, and you know, the industry today clearly devalues female filmmakers. In Hollywood, there's only 6% of the female directors are women. And what do you think the potential solutions to this problem is?
Well, I think a perfect segue to your last question into this question and Leah's entrance. You know, like Terry was saying, yes, there's data that's coming out. There are studies that are being done that are proving that the numbers are there for the female-centric or female-directed films. I think there is also a lot of women who are taking steps to further their own careers. They're not waiting for opportunities to come to them. They're joining NIWIFT. They're submitting to Big Vision programs. They're going to Film Fatales. And then there are also women now, because they're part of these groups and they have more of a support system and more resources, they're going out and they're pushing their own projects. And I think that that's one of the biggest solutions, to find those resources that are available to you and make it happen for yourself. And Leah's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I think it really takes a top-down solution and a bottom-up solution. It really takes all of us working together to increase representation both on screen and off. And what an organization like Film Fatales does is it's that bottom-up approach. It's a grassroots approach. It's what can we as independent filmmakers do to keep getting our work made and seen? And the answer is, by joining forces, we are amplifying our voices. There's real strength in numbers, and we have a dozen programs that we do where we program, we reach out to film festival programmers and say, hey, we've noticed you're not programming very many films directed by women. Here's a vast database of our films that are on the festival circuit now. We make it easy for them. We do these types of panels and workshops. It's a real mentoring, a peer mentoring group. At the same time, there's only so much that women helping women can do. Yes, it's fantastic, and it's a rising tide lifts all boats, and we can lift each other up, but we also need those who are currently in positions of power with access to financing to offer more opportunities, equal opportunities to women as to men. And I think it takes an active outreach. There's a real difference between passive bias and active bias. I think we're finally past the point where there's some old man in a room somewhere saying, I don't want to see women or people of color direct films. Now we just have a problem of passive bias, and it's that those who are greenlighting movies are looking at a very narrow talent pool when they're deciding who to hire and who to give opportunities to. And so, again, something that Film Fatales or Big Vision or NIWIFT can do is say, here we are. There are hundreds of women making movies who are qualified, who are talented, who will work their asses off, start hiring us. And I think finally, hopefully, we're starting to see that shift in our lifetimes. Maybe we'll get above that 6% number.
Also, I think what's happening is storytellers who are misrepresented or underrepresented, like myself, we're taking power in our own hands and doing a lot of stuff in the digital space and further on in cable television. So I think
check out her web series.
But yeah, I think it's catching on. There's so many, like, especially for women of color storytellers. And I think it's seeping into the bigger studio system, and they're like figuring out actually stories about women of color, queer, trans folks are bankable, because when the work is good and it's compelling, it spreads, people love it. And also there was like a funny discussion, I think opportunities like this and organizations like Fatales, like speaking up and standing up for each other is so great. A couple months ago, the director of Jurassic World, this guy like kind of shot himself in the foot by posting on Twitter that he thinks that sexism in Hollywood is not about the corporate studios excluding women. It's because he actually said this: women filmmakers have such artistic integrity that they're not interested in making blockbusters about dinosaurs and superheroes, and that's so not true. I would even want to make one. There's a plethora of women who would kick ass at it and do so well. So, I mean, and he wasn't coming from a mean place. I think that was a case of a white dude just, instead of checking his privilege, being like, oh, I don't want to be a part of the problem.
I mean, Jurassic World's a fantastic example. Because here you have a guy, Colin Trevorrow. He had made a a small independent feature film that played at Sundance. He made one feature, like all of us. And Steven Spielberg literally saw his film and said, this guy reminds me of me when I was young. I'm going to give him a chance. Here's Jurassic World, which is a major step up, and now he's doing a Star Wars series. That never has happened for a woman, because there aren't yet enough women in those positions like Spielberg to look back and say, you remind me of myself, I'm going to give you a chance. But what's really encouraging is I was just reading the New York Times this morning. There's an interview with Spielberg, and in that interview he started to acknowledge, he said, people who are in my position do need to reach down and mentor and look at women and filmmakers of color. I think it's seeping into the social consciousness enough that people are saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm not a bad person, I just have passive bias, and I need to look outside of my insular circle and see where other talent might be. And Haiyan's totally right. Women directors and people of color, having been shut out for so long, will work extra hard and are often a really good investment.
I just wanted to say also, I think that while I think it's great that Steven Spielberg is becoming a little bit more conscious, that's a good sign. We're doing some outreach to showrunners and agents, places where we think the pipeline is being clogged up and women are not getting chances. And we really discovered it with agents. We're having some success of trying to get agents to really consider adding women onto their roster who have proven themselves by making a good first feature, or even a good short. But with the showrunners, not so much. And it pretty much feels like they just really don't care. And I think that they're into hiring people that remind them of themselves, or from their own sort of social crowd of people they've hired before. And so I think we need to support incentives or punishments, or both, for people who are not being fair and are not giving people equal opportunity, which is, by the way, the law of the land. We are supposed to be having equal opportunity in this country. So the work that the ACLU has done and has forced the EEOC to start an investigation into discriminatory practices in Hollywood is really good. That could cause punishment for the people that are discriminating, and it will ripple out. It won't just be feature films. It will go out to television. It will go out to all the other areas. And then the other thing is this great law that the Writers Guild has been trying to get passed for the last, I think it's at least 5 years. And it's now in New York State. It's now been passed by the Assembly, and it's gonna be up before the Senate the next round, or the next time that they meet. This law would allow writers and directors who are women or people of color $50,000 of their salaries for each episode. This is for television. For each episode could be counted toward the incentive, the tax incentive. So that means that 30% of that 50,000 would go back to the production. So that's a really big incentive to hire a woman or a person of color in the writers' room, and directors too. So the Directors Guild has joined in on this. It first started out just being for writers, and now the DGA has joined in on this. And we've been supporting this for the whole 5 years that it's been up in front of the state legislature. So I encourage you, this would be a huge change. This would really make a difference. Just think of the difference it's made for production in New York to have that tax incentive. I mean, production has, I don't know, grown 100% or more than 1,000%. So if you can, figure out who your state senator is, and you can go on, just Google New York State Senate, write to them, tell them that you support this bill. If anybody wants to know the bill number or anything, just contact me, and I will let you know. And we have sample letters and everything.
Right. And like you said too, Leah, it's also about getting out there, creating your own work, seeing what resources are out there. And I know, Hayoung, you have done this incredible viral video. Hayoung, sorry. That is First Kiss New York City. And I wondered, if you guys haven't seen it, you should definitely Google it. It's just so captivating to watch. How did you think of the idea, and also were you planning on how to capture an audience on social media before it did go viral?
Well, it was basically my version and a New York City version of the video that was going crazy viral called First Kiss. So how it happened was I'm a part of a Wifey TV. It's a feminist video curating site founded by the amazing Jill Soloway and Rebecca Odes. So I'm one of their contributors. So when I saw the First Kiss video, the original one, I emailed them. I was like, you know what, maybe what if I make a New York City version where it's not all mostly white, willowy, modelly, skinny folks. And Jill was like, do it now. So that's how it started. So I just posted on Facebook that I wanted to do, everyone had seen it by then, a lot of people. So I just want to do a version where it's more curves, more color, more dust, dirt, and queer juice. And then my friend was like, what is queer juice? But yeah, so I knew that it would do well, because people were getting so excited just at the casting call of it.
Right.
So yeah, and I didn't so much focus on how to captivate people, but more to like how it's such a great video experiment, like what would captivate me drove me to do it in 2 days and edit it. So I think it has like 7 million views on YouTube. That's great.
And Leah, your feature, I Believe in Unicorns, was premiered at South by Southwest, and I was wondering, even though it's gone to festivals and you guys have distribution, what was your engagement strategy other than a traditional theatrical release and the festival circuit?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my feature film is about a teenage girl who runs away from home with an older boy and quickly gets in over her head. And it's a film that I made for my 16-year-old self, honestly. It's a film I made that I wished I could have seen when I was that age, and navigating those murky waters of sexuality and consent and all of these issues that you often don't see from a female perspective, and from a female perspective with an active imagination. And so I knew from the get-go that on a personal level I really wanted to reach a young teenage girl audience, and that girls today often don't go to film festivals or read the New York Times or go to theaters anymore. And I knew it would take a really active social media engagement. So similar, I think, to your strategy, I started engaging with an audience at a very early stage while I was still in the script writing process. And when I cast my lead actress, I did a major casting call, and I cast a 16-year-old and kind of reached out to young bloggers and young women as a kind of creative crowdsourcing approach to making the film. It was a real combination of my own experiences and experiences of teenage girls today. And similarly, I mean, it's amazing how quickly things spread. It was like within a few months we had 50,000 Facebook fans, and then it doubled, and then it doubles. And it's just like, I think there really is an audience out there hungry for content that represents a reflection of themselves on screen. For so long, we're used to watching stories told from the perspective of a straight white man, and we're so used to putting ourselves in someone else's shoes, but it's so gratifying to finally see something on screen that you're like, oh, I connect to that, I can relate to that. And I think, again, it's this trickle-up approach. The more that women and directors of color have been shut out of the system start telling their own stories, or stories that have relatable protagonists who are like them, the more that I think will affect social change.
The movie is really amazing, beautiful, and just...
It just came out on Netflix, so I believe in unicorns.
So when would you guys, and how would you suggest filmmakers create a fan base?
I think Leah's example is a perfect one. As soon as possible. When you're writing your movie or your TV pilot, whatever it is, you need to know who you're writing it for. Identify your audience immediately, and then figure out what news sources they trust. Where are they getting their information? How are they finding out about new projects? And where do they watch them? Do they have the money to go to the movie theater, or do they have a subscription to Hulu or Netflix, or are they, watching their mom's HBO Go account. You need to figure out where they're consuming their content and how they're finding out about new content immediately, and speak to them in a language that they understand and that they relate to.
And it can be fun too.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of filmmakers are like, oh, I just don't want to do a Twitter
Right.
account, or it's
Yeah.
like, it's just enough to make the film. But
Yeah.
if you really hate it, you can find someone else to collaborate with to handle that stuff. But I think it's great. It's like
Yeah.
we're making films for an audience. It's why we love going to film festivals and engaging with real people. It's that
Right.
one moment where you actually, the audience and the filmmaker can connect, and it's a really powerful, profound thing.
And that should be an audience that continues with you from project to project. It shouldn't be starting from scratch every time you have a new project, but
Right.
you know, finding people who love your voice and your point of view, whether they're people like you or people who aren't like you. But
Yeah.
if they connect with your voice, they're, you know, whether it's a First Kiss parody or your personal web series, they love your voice, and they're going to continue with you from project to project, and you continue that engagement.
I was exactly one of those people like, oh, Twitter, no, I can't. But I did a crowdfunding campaign with Seed and Spark. They're awesome. If any of you are considering a crowdfunding campaign, go with them, because I just had so much anxiety and fear over the marketing and promotion, but they have an amazing guideline that guides you through like what to do. And through their team, I learned, yes, audience building starts from the get-go. That's why I love Instagram for like visual artists and filmmakers, because even just sharing your aesthetics from, you know, stuff that would go on your inspiration board, by sharing it with people who resonate with your vision and voice, they'll become fans, become your audience. And yeah, for me, I think like it's like I love just connecting with people, and thankfully my fan base is still very small, but it's, you know, it started very small, so I was able to write back to every single person who would email me after watching my show and like actually talk about how they resonated, what their life is like, what they would like to see. So and I actually got to meet up with some of them. So yeah, just think of it as like human connection. That's building an audience.
Leah, I wondered, you traveled a lot with I Believe in Unicorns around the world, and since this festival started, I've noticed a lot of international filmmakers have come, and it's amazing, but their audiences have obviously been a lot smaller in their screenings compared to the local filmmakers who are here and bring in their friends. So how did you engage people in other cities where you're not living and get them to come and see your work if it's playing at a festival there or at some event?
Yeah, that's a great question. Several different ways, one of which is film fatales.
Okay.
So as I've been traveling the past year on the festival circuit with my feature with Unicorns, anytime I would look and see what other films were programmed in the festival. Anytime there were at least 2 other women, I would reach out to them via social media, get together, create a meetup, you know, and we started like local film fatales chapters that way. So there's now dozens of them around the world, kind of like Fight Club. It's like any city you go to, you're like, we need a secret hand sign or something. But it's really also phenomenal because, you know, you can show up. We just had one of a fatale from London come and have a screening here in New York, and 24 other fatales came out to support her opening weekend. You know, we support each other.
Right.
So part of it is looking for like-minded people. And then part of it is film festivals have a fantastic network of people. I reach out to film festivals in advance and I say, I would really like to target a younger audience who may not necessarily attend your festival. Can you put me in touch with the local film schools and high schools? And I reach out to those teachers, and I often engage that way through institutions that exist wherever that may be, from Australia to you know, Croatia. I have been all over the world, and it's been also really powerful to see the difference in not just independent filmmaking, but in feminism. And you know, in Costa Rica, I think our fatales chapter is 6 women, and that's it. In like the whole country, they're like, this is it. They're like, we don't have what you have in America. And then you go somewhere like Sweden, and they're like way ahead. They're like, oh, what? Yeah, gender equality, duh. So I think, anyways.
Wow. I was wondering, you know, when Amy Schumer's Trainwreck came out, there was a lot of like these think pieces like, oh, does she drink too much? Is she a good role model? And you wouldn't get that for a film like The Hangover. And so do you guys, when you're creating your work or when you're looking for work, like when people approach you, do you worry about likability versus relatability for female characters more than the male characters?
Yeah, actually, I hate to admit it, but when I was editing second season of my web series, I was discussing with my producer Nancy Schwartzman, who's also one of the Fatales. We were trying to pick how we're going to open the season, and there was a discussion of, oh, but in this episode, my character is not so trustworthy, then are we going to lose people? Let's try to mold it so that we'll have people on board, so the likability. It is in the psyche, but I would love to see more female anti-hero characters and stories about them. Because, I mean, Tony Soprano, Walter White, they're beloved, they're charming as heck, and so why not for women? So a friend and a filmmaker, Christina Cho, who's also a Fatale, so many Fatales.
We are everywhere.
Everywhere. She did a successful Kickstarter campaign earlier this year with her feature film Nancy, which is about, it's a psychological drama about an imposter woman who lies her way through life. So that's a great example. Like, it's going to be, I'm so excited to see it, but yeah, fuck likability.
I think there is more pressure for, if there are less representations of any certain character on screen, there is a added weight. But it's unfair. It's like exhausting. Like, I mean, as artists, I think we want to be able to just tell stories about whoever we want to tell stories about.
Yes, I think filmmakers should resist that pressure. We're not, just because I'm a woman, I don't represent all women. Whatever I say, I say.
Right.
And whatever a filmmaker says, that's what that filmmaker is saying. What we look for when we're supporting women filmmakers and supporting films and trying to help promote films is films that have authentic images of women. So there are good women, there are bad women. And you know, there can be bad women in movies that can be very interesting. So, but if it's the woman is someone who's just like a made-up myth of male, you know, whatever, you know, that's where we get, you know, disturbed. Not, you know, not an authentic character who may or may not be good or bad or a good example. And you know, I mean, the gay community has had this pressure too of like, you know, how can you have like bad gay people because everybody thinks gay people are better? How can you have promiscuous gay people because everyone thinks gay people are promiscuous? Well, some gay people are promiscuous. So, and those movies are interesting movies that explore that. So I think that women filmmakers should be free to explore whatever evil or goodness they want to. That's what art is about.
At Big Vision, we're similarly looking for authenticity and a variety. We don't want to see the same thing over and over. We want authentic stories that are different than what you're already seeing. So when we're picking writers for our writers lab or we're picking projects for our diversity incentive, we just want to make sure that they're all different and it's not the same old thing. And the only time I would be worried about, you know, not seeing a positive portrayal of women is if it's written by a man. If a woman is writing, you know, a promiscuous woman, I'm okay with that. As long as there's authenticity and there's knowledge and it's coming from a, you know, a place of knowing what you're writing about, then we're okay with that. And I think, you know, supporting diversity behind the scenes is then helping support diversity on screen. When we launched our diversity incentive on October 5th, we launched with 18 projects, and I don't know if I have the numbers exactly correct in my head. Danny, you might know better, but it's something like 90 of those
people of color on screen in 18 projects
right.
that have speaking roles, and it's like almost 100 LGBT characters with speaking roles on screen, and of the women that are on screen, most of them have professions where they're seen in a leadership position.
Right,
So
they're not all
that's-
homemakers or prostitutes. So if you're supporting that,
Some are.
Some of them are. But if you're supporting the diversity behind the scenes, it really shows up on screen in a more authentic way.
Yeah. And I wondered, you're all very busy women. We all do so many things. If it's your own independent short or feature, you're on Twitter, you're going to film festivals. How do you self-care and how do you get over the little bumps in the roads that come up when you're creating films or reaching out to people and getting negative feedback? How do you handle it all?
I think for me, it's knowing that there are people who support us. Right. You know, not everybody is going to be supportive, but forget those people, let's move on. Right. Even in trying to find vendors who are going to offer discounts for the filmmakers for the diversity incentive. Right. We got a lot of non-responses, or people who are like, great idea, but like pass, we don't really care. So okay, we're not going to promote your business to our people. You're no longer a preferred vendor. Right. We're going to support the people who are supporting diversity, and if you're not interested, then I'm not interested. Bye.
Right.
Yeah, having that network of support is really key, and that's what Film Fatales is at its foundation, is women filmmakers, working women filmmakers supporting each other and mentoring each other, and it is so empowering to just not realize that you're not the only one in the room anymore. To just be in a room, in a circle of dozens of other women filmmakers who are going through the same ups and downs you're going through is just, I think, massively impactful.
Yeah. Same. I have an amazing network of friends, a lot of women friends who can hold the space for me to rage when I get rejected most of the time, and just like help me build myself up. So I feel like I text self-care to friends like every other week. It's like, we need it. We're in New York City. We're making art, struggling. So, but I like to just go into my cave, not physically, but just to give myself permission to not be social. I don't have to work on something all the time, and yeah, that helps a lot.
And what I think about, and I do a lot of fundraising for our organization, and I also work. We have a fiscal sponsorship program, and I work with filmmakers who are raising money for their films. And my attitude is this: if we are giving you a chance to do the right thing, to do something, to be part of something that's really magical, that's really going to change the world. And if you pass on that opportunity, that is your loss, not mine. So that's how I think about it. It works.
I wanted to open it up to the audience and see if anybody has any questions. Yeah?
Hi, how are you? Thank you. It's really beautiful listening to all and authenticity, I think, is important. My question is, hearing each one of you share your groups and your experiences, most of the time when I see individuals from different organizations come together, the big question I ask myself is, how is it that your organizations can start to collaborate and work together so it's not just each organization, so that it is the whole combined effort, and like that everyone else can benefit regardless of whether they're part of Film Fatales or Big Vision Empty Wallet or NYWIFT. Everyone is working together and helping each other out. Do you guys have models or ways for that, or can that be a conversation you start?
Yeah, I mean, it's something we're already doing. NYWIFT puts us in their newsletters and on social media. Yeah. Same with Film Fatales. We are just cross-promoting each other all the time and trying to make sure we know about the opportunities that we're each offering. Terry's on the advisory board for our diversity incentive, so when we were starting to launch that, we were asking her a million questions. She has a lot of more experience than I do, and she makes herself available to just give advice and to give connections, and I think that's something that we're constantly doing.
I think most of the organizations that are trying to that are helping women and trying to change the status of women in our business are in touch pretty much constantly, and we see each other on panels a lot, but also we work together and we communicate with each other. We're all on each other's mailing lists, and there is a project that Sundance and Women in Film in Los Angeles has been doing for the past 3 years called the Female Filmmaker Initiative, which you can find on the Sundance website, and they've put out three studies. The third one just came out, I think, this week, about what has stopped. And they're focusing on independent women feature filmmakers. What has stopped them from moving on to the sort of getting into the commercial world the way that male independent filmmakers have done? It's very, very good, very interesting, and not too surprising results of the study. But there are many, many groups that are supporting that study that are also supporting women in the business. And so, in that way, we've gotten together once or twice a year to talk about moving forward with some different initiatives and ideas. So we are working together.
Right. One thing I've been noticing lately is I'll see these projects, film projects that are, advertising like this is a female-driven story and this is awesome, it's a feminist story, and then I'll go look at the details and I'll notice it's like a white male director or a male writer. And while I'm excited, it always gets me a little down, because while I'm excited that, you know, there's more of that conversation happening and men are noticing that they have to focus on that, it almost feels like they're like trying to, you know, profit off of this push for female stories. Is that, I guess I'm curious to hear if you've experienced that, if that's something that, how do we have that conversation where it's like, yeah, that's the point, but it's also not the point, like we need more females making these stories. So what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, I notice that every day.
Yeah.
But I also think it's like, it's all of us making change, and
Right.
I think we will see more representations of women on screen a lot sooner than we will see more representations of women behind the camera, just because it's more visible. But I think it's great when you see high-powered actresses like Jennifer Lawrence speak up and say, hey, why is there a wage inequality? Or I think it's great that more male writers and directors are telling stories with complicated female characters. At the same time, I understand that feeling of appropriation, or like, hey, you know, I of course want to see more women telling these stories as well. But I think it's still a positive thing.
Yeah.
We want to see more women telling stories about men too.
Yeah.
We want filmmakers to be able to tell the stories they want to tell. There should be freedom. There should, you know, it shouldn't be shutting out one and not the other. We just need 50-50.
I agree with Terry in the way that they're encroaching on our space. We should be encroaching on theirs. You know, everybody assumes that female stories are just for women, or things that women write are just for women. If things that men write and direct can be for women and men, things that women write and direct should be accepted as for women and men. And that goes back to thinking that a female story is not a good investment, that only women are going to want to see it. Like, no, we can write and create stories that men and women want to see.
Even if only women saw films by women, it's like more than 50%.
We are more than 50% of the movie-going public. Yeah.
50% of the population, and more than 50% of ticket buyers.
Yeah.
Movies. So why what's bad about women just women wanting to see it?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Giselle Zuniga. I'm a sophomore at the NYU Tisch Films program. And I just recently created an organization for, there's Fusion Film Festival, which does address the women in the industry problem, but there's also a lack of addressing diversity in terms of ethnic diversity, sexual orientation diversity, gender identity, and I made the Radical Artists Aiming for Diversity group. And I think it'd be really great to get your information so that we can make your resources available to students, because first off, we don't know that these things exist, and because no one talks about them, and also that it provides so much hope. Also, that I'm wondering, what are you doing now, or what do you plan on doing in order to reach out to the next generation of filmmakers that aren't necessarily in your shoes, trying to make the changes for people being in these spaces, but I guess that my generation, that we do see people in these spaces, but it's mainly one person in this space and not enough to really make any sort of movement of change, I guess, or that, so that it's not enough to where we actually feel included in the room. So I'm just wondering what outreach are you doing to people my age, and giving hope for the future and making sure that we have resources to be successful, or at least have a living as filmmakers.
That's a fantastic question. Thank you. I'm actually showing my film Unicorns at Fusion Film Festival on October 30th, so I'll be there. I went to NYU as well. What Film Fatales is doing, and we're very easy to find, it's just filmfatales.org, is anyone who wants to start a Film Fatales chapter can start one. It's similar to the Black Lives Matter movement, or Occupy Wall Street maybe. It's a real horizontal model of expansion. So we recently formed 2 groups for short filmmakers. 2 of them, Brittany Fennell, they're recent NYU grads, and some are current NYU undergrads. So we do have kind of chapters that are at that level of experience of women who've maybe made 1 or 2 short films and are starting to make their first feature. And if you want to join that chapter, it is open to any woman who has directed anything That can be a web series, that can be a short film, a documentary, a narrative, television, and we're very inclusive in that way. As far as reaching out to more women of color, which I think I heard in your question. I don't know if that was explicitly part of your question, but I want to talk about it anyway.
That, like, when I last met you.
And we've been talking about it, so I know, so maybe I should let someone else talk as well. But I think that is a constant that takes active outreach. And at least within, I can speak just within Film Fatales, we have dozens of different chapters, but because they are these autonomous, kind of self-sustaining pods, different cities are more and less diverse than others. In New York City, Los Angeles, pretty fantastic diversity across the board, but then, you know, New Orleans is great, but you look at somewhere like Sydney, Australia, and I don't know the solution. What we've done so far is we've formed a diversity initiative within our group, which is made up of primarily women of color, but also LGBTQ, and women of a certain age is the category we're calling it, which is women over 40. And they actively reach out to people in their networks as a kind of recruitment tool. And anytime, I think even on this panel, anytime I'm on a panel, I say, is there a woman of color on the panel?
Yes.
Otherwise I don't speak on the panel. So it's like, I think I did that on the panel in Woodstock as well. So I mean, that's one small thing, but I would love to actually hear suggestions from you guys as to what you think is the best technique. Because I mean, feminism in particular has a history of being wealthy white women. And I'm very aware of my own passive bias because I'm, you know, saying we need Hollywood to change, we also as a movement need to be intersectional, and we need to be, it's not just one subset of women, it's all of us. So I would love to hear your thoughts, honestly. Maybe we could talk more after, again, as well.
Sorry. What I also like to do is, even no matter what the scale or budget is, I like to actually work with younger folks who are just about to leave college. My colorist is a wonderful Asian American woman who just graduated NYU. My editor, who I adore, I snatched him right up in his senior year at NYU. So I've never set foot in NYU, but I use your facilities a lot. But yeah, I think just giving, like, I often feel sometimes shy about mentoring someone when I need so much mentorship. But no matter what level you're at in your career and your creative pursuit, you can seek mentees. I have a comedian, Asian American comedian / web designer friend who I try to constantly give her work, even if it's pocket money. So just that kind of like active thinking. Who can I pick? Yes, let me just be more aware. And yes, I would love to talk to you too. Yeah.
And at Big Vision, we don't require that you're already a professional to be submitting to our projects or to our programs. So you can submit a script and come to Costa Rica with us, whether you're, 20 or 50. We encourage you, if you're proud of your work and you think it's great, then submit it to us. And same thing with the mentorship. Sometimes we get a submission from someone who isn't ready to participate in a program, but we'll let them audit it. You can audit the education and maybe not come with your project, but you can come to our distribution lab and sit in on the education and learn more about what it is that you don't know, and then maybe next time get into the program.
And we have an intern mentor program, and we have interns. It's extremely diverse. We're an extremely diverse organization. Our makeup of our membership, surprisingly, in a way, because of our roots, maybe, of who started us, but we have a very we've been very determined to have our organization reflect the diversity of New York City, not so much the diversity of our industry, which is way less than the diversity of our city, and our intern mentorship program is also extremely diverse. And people serve as interns, and then they get assigned to a mentor who's doing whatever in the business that they want to be doing. If they want to be in distribution or exhibition or whatever, if producing, they get assigned to a mentor, and that person helps them make some decisions after they graduate to about which direction they're going to go in or which kind of job they're going to go after and that kind of thing. So that's one way we help younger people. And we also have a scholarship. We also support the Fusion Film Festival, and we have a scholarship at NYU and Columbia, SVA, City, and Stony Brook.
I'm also a mentor for the Tribeca Film Fellows, which is worth knowing about for those of you who are New York-based filmmakers. It's a terrific program. as are their all access labs, and TFI has a lot of amazing resources. And another thing, if you're taking notes, is the Horizon Award, which right now is open to women just 6 months out of film school, or still in college.
Yeah, I know you have been there for a while.
So I was at a virtual reality film festival last week. There was about 30 virtual reality films. They were all really good, but there was only one female director, and somebody actually, asked her what was it like being the only female director in this whole film festival, and she just sort of shrugged. She's like, "There's nothing I can do." So I was wondering, for you guys, as virtual reality becomes the new medium that everyone's talking about, what are your organizations doing to encourage, equality amongst women in this new film medium?
We do a lot of educational, we do workshops and seminars, usually about once a week for our membership. And so we have done several workshops on virtual reality. There has not been a lot of interest, I have to say, among the members. And so I think our job is really to reach out to women who are interested in virtual reality and let them know that they are welcome to come into our membership. And that's something we haven't done yet. We need to do that because it's not enough just to say, oh, here's what's happening in virtual reality. You have to also figure out who are the people that are interested and try to engage them in your community. And that's what we're trying to do now.
And then offering the access to the people who actually know about virtual reality. I think that's something that NIWC does really well, and something that we try to do at Big Vision is when there's something new and awesome happening, jump in on the ground floor and get access to the people who know about it and can share resources and information.
We also do master classes where one Fatal teaches at length to the rest of the group, and we have a handful who are interested in VR. Rose Trochet just did something at Sundance that was just amazing. It was like a date rape, and you could watch it from the perspective of the man and the woman. It was really harrowing and intense. Nancy Schwartzman starting to get into it, Emily Lobson. So we encourage it, but I don't know. I mean, we treat VR like that type of festival. That experience happens at all sorts of film festivals. I think we're often the only woman in the room, and our solution has been, calling awareness to it and saying, why is there only one woman, programmed in your festival? Let me connect you to our programming outreach team for next year, and we'll send you a list of films by women so that they're easier for you to find. And I'm, constantly on juries now at film festivals and actively trying to get back in that way, and we're actually having real progress.
I mean, one of the things is if you're hiring, even someone who's not, you're hiring people, and some of them may know about virtual reality and some of them may know about different aspects of moving image technology that are contributing to this virtual reality show. Hire a woman. Years and years ago I worked on a film called Visions of Light, which was about cinematography, and it was the first HD movie that was made in the United States as a documentary. And I consciously hired a woman DP. There weren't any DPs who knew how to shoot HD at that time. So I could have hired anyone. There was no one experienced, at least not in the US, there were in Japan at the time. So I hired a woman DP. That was my contribution to putting one woman that 1 foot ahead of a man in terms of getting jobs in shooting HD. And now everybody, of course, shoots HD. But
and for all of you, if there's something you want, you have to ask, like Mark just did. Terry mentioned there wasn't a lot of interest. Maybe there is, but people aren't reaching out and saying, this is what I want to learn about. So if you're a part of these organizations, reach out and say, why aren't you doing a program about this? I'm interested, and so are these 3 other people. Like, let's get something together. I think we're all very responsive. We're tapped into our communities, and we want to know what you want. So if you need something or you want something, tell us.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, and then you're next, I guess.
This is a question directed mostly at Terry, although Leah, you kind of brought up the women over 40 program that you have. I was wondering if you could talk about the Writers Lab that you did with Meryl Streep, because there was such a spotlight on it for women over 40, and what is ensuing.
Well, actually, I wish we had done that Writers Lab with Meryl Streep, but she
was unavailable.
We did this Writers Lab actually with a group called Iris, which is a collective of women filmmakers. It was their idea. They came to us, and we helped to make it happen. Meryl funded it, so we wrote letters to various funders, hundreds of funders, and Meryl was the only one who responded, and she responded by fully funding the lab, so we were very indebted to her. However, she wasn't there at the time, and I don't have any kind of personal way of getting in touch with her, just so everybody knows. But it was a really successful lab. We think we got 3,500 applications, which was surprising. I had made this crazy calculation in my mind that since Sundance gets 2,500 and they must be at least half men, and then they must be at least a lot under 40, then we're only going to get 1,000. That was my. So we were a little bit unprepared with it. We worked with the Writers Guild of America East and to get readers, and we had really very, very well-known, good writers as our readers, and that's how we narrowed it down and found the 12 writers that participated in the program in September. And we had 8 mentors, and it was quite a good experience, I think, for the writers and for us, and we learned a lot, and we're going to do it again next year. And we're going to start accepting applications at least by January. You have to be over 40, though.
There's the Ravenel Award also, which
yes,
is for women over 40 making, I believe, their second feature film.
That's right.
Started by Cornelia
Thank
Ravenel.
you.
But yes, I will admit to, at least within the New York chapters of Film Fatales, women over 40 or over 50 are often at a disadvantage or are a minority within our group because we are so social media based, or because maybe it's because we meet on Mondays at 7 p.m., which is a really difficult time for women with children, and I don't have kids and I didn't think of it. It's like this passive bias, and so it takes active outreach. And there also are less working filmmakers of that age. I don't know the answer other than we're welcoming and we say please come.
Although I will say, we did a survey of our members to ask them if they wanted us to provide childcare for our events, and they said no. We want to leave our children home.
Yeah.
So I'm 40. I'm 41 this month, and I just finished my first feature documentary, and I'm doing a narrative film. And I find it very difficult to find a support system for female emerging filmmakers. It's either you're established when you're 40 and you've already had quite a body of work, or if you're starting out, it's very difficult to get that support system. I belong to 2 committees at the National Arts Club, which is on the theater committee and the film committee, but it's still not the same. I'm still not immersed with women filmmakers, which is very important to me, especially when I'm throwing ideas around and you want to have somebody to speak with about it. So I wanted to know what the criteria are for your organizations. How do you join? Like the National Arts Club, you have to have 2 proposers. I believe Women in Film is it similar, or if you could just tell me what they are, because I'm going to proactively join immediately tonight. So.
Great. I'll give you my card. You have to have 4 years experience beyond entry level in the business in some way. So making a documentary is definitely beyond entry level. I don't know how long, I can talk to you later. We also have we have a Next Wave group for people who've accomplished something but haven't hit that 4-year experience beyond entry level.
Yep, that's how I joined also.
Yes.
And that and so that's sort of it's a smaller group. Within the group, it's only 10% of our membership, but it's a good way for us to get in new people who are doing really interesting things. And we have many women over 40 who are working on their first features. Either they've come from television. Great. They come from a television background, or they were executives, or they're changing careers completely. We have someone who came from the health care field and retired. Took a sort of early retirement. She's in her mid-50s, and she's trying to make her first feature. So you should join, because there are a lot of women that you'll find that you can talk to.
Yeah. And the other organizations, how do you join your?
For us, our only requirement is talent. You just have to be working hard and good at what you do. You can submit to all of our programs, whether you're someone who's fresh out of school or still in school, or you've won an Academy Award. You just have to have a script or have a project or be ready to learn about distribution. There's no requirements beyond being talented and hungry.
And with Film Fatales, it's identifying as a female director. having directed something that has been released publicly. So that could be a short film in a film festival or a web series online, and being willing to volunteer time towards the group, because the way that we work is we collectively each host meetings and co-host and volunteer our time in different ways. So in New York, we have a documentary chapter specific to documentary filmmakers, and then the 2 short film chapters are both documentary and narrative. And there are definitely women over 40 in both of those groups, but probably less so than NIWIFT. And there's no membership dues or anything. There's a contact form on our website, which is filmfatales.org, and just fill it out and someone will get back to you.
Thank you.
Okay, so maybe you next, and then I think you might have to wrap up after these 2 questions.
I'm a member of Alliance Women Directors from LA, and are you in LA?
Yeah, we are. So there's Shaz Bennett, Jen McGowan.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of AWD, Film Fatales crossover in LA. We have several chapters there.
And you have.
We're everywhere. We're international.
Mm-hmm. And there's a Women in Film in LA, obviously, also.
Totally.
But we're bigger.
Right.
In terms of membership, maybe not in terms of budget, but in terms of membership.
I think one last question.
Hi, I'm Sharon Cooper, and I've been a playwright for a very long time. I'm newer to screenwriting, and I'm wondering, I've seen so much awesome success with people like Hae-yeon, who's a good friend of mine, who have really put themselves out as the writer, the director, and the actor, and it's such a beautiful model that people are doing that. For folks who are more strictly on one path, like I'm most interested in being a writer, but I'm really interested in connecting more with women directors and that sort of thing, what advice would you give specifically for writers who are not also trying to do quite so many slashes? I mean, I did produce a short film that we're almost done with, so that's kind of one slash, and I have some other slashes as well, but I really want to make sure I'm collaborating more with women directors.
Well, one thing you could do is come to our NIWIFT Night Out. This is a get-together that we have, and non-members are welcome. It's usually every second Monday of the month, but this Monday, because of Columbus Day, is the 3rd Monday, so it's this coming Monday. And it's for writers and people who need writers. So come to that. We expect to have some directors there. It's going to be at Prana, which is on Madison at 28th Street from 6:30 to 8:30. It's on our website, too, if you don't remember that. But that's one thing you can do. We do have a bunch of programs for writers specifically. We have one coming up which is called The Business Side of the Business, which is about how to sell your script. And we have others in the spring that are more about aesthetics and the actual writing process. So look on our website and you'll see we have quite a few writers in the organization. We also do readings of scenes, readings of full screenplays. So we do a lot to support our writers. We have probably about 300 writers in the group.
We also have submissions open for our Writers Lab right now, so we're choosing one screenwriter for film and one for television. They're getting a free retreat to Costa Rica, and yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited to go. And then they're also getting incredible mentorship from Erica Weinstein at AMC and Lucy Mukherjee Brown, who's at Outfest. And part of that mentorship and part of what both myself and Danny provide is relationships and that support. So if there's, through our community, we can connect you to different directors or producers to work with.
And I just add one thing. You really want to be meeting producers as a writer rather than a director, because it's the producers who are going to make something happen. If you get a director connected to your script before you get a good producer, you might have some problems. So I would focus more on producers.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming.